So, now, anybody got any questions? We've talked about so much.
I have a question, Pastor.
Yes, ma'am.
So the other evening, I was on the call and leading the way, and Pastor Penn was in there talking in regards to the Social Security card. And I believe, well, they were talking about, when I got in, they were talking about copyright and trademarking. And I'm not sure how the conversation got on the Social Security on the Social Security card. I believe someone brought it up, and so he actually showed, the other half of the card,
Yep.
when they send it to you, and it
Yep.
on the back of it, it says, "This is your card. Do not blah 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 blah." It says, oh, let me see. It says, "This Social Security number shown on your card is yours alone." So he kept reading that, and people were posing questions and stuff like that. So he kept bringing it up. And down in my soul, it was just like, ask him, how does he know that that is not in addressing the straw man? So I got on the mic and I asked him, I said, so that card was addressed to the all caps name, correct?
Yep.
And so he agreed. And so I said, how do we not know that when it was saying, this is your card, this is your number, and it shows the is yours alone? I said, how do we know that they were not speaking to the straw man at that time, or the all caps name, because they're not supposed to be really speaking with us, the living, breathing person. They can only do business with like kind. And it just really, he does not want to hear anything outside of what, this absolute trustee, he's just sold on that as if that's the end all be all of the situation. And I've spoken to him about the consumer laws and things like that before, and he keeps making statements as if saying, why are we, I don't care about those statutes, those codes, blah, blah, blah. And I keep asking him, if that is the case, then why are you utilizing them? Why are you using them? I've heard you quote them on here numerous of times, but then you keep saying that it's a trap, that those codes don't apply to us.
Well, what I say is, okay, yeah, you're probably right. They don't. But they do apply to those agencies.
Right, right. And that's what I was trying to get him to see, but it was no getting him to see it. And he tried to make it seem as if, our age differences, and when how long he's been, doing this, and he has children my age. And I feel like, none of that, because if you've been studying this for longer than I have, then, and you haven't taken what we're all trying to do at the end of the day, is get control of that estate. If you're on these calls with the rest of us, you understand what I mean? So there's just no getting around to him. And he was trying to make it seem as if I was debating, but I wasn't debating. I was just trying to get clarity. And I did mention about the birth certificate and everything that you have been talking about in regards to the infant being, is the one that is tied to that birth certificate, and that the fact that the baby is not necessarily recorded and things of that nature. But it's just like, he don't want to hear it.
No, he don't. And
Yeah.
why? Some people have gotten so deep into their process they can't see past it. And I like G Pen. I'm not putting him
Hmm.
down. Me and him talk on occasion.
Mhm.
Okay. But I'm sitting here looking at the face value of these documents. Okay. And I'm not trying to put my own feelings into them. I'm not trying to do nothing other than what are they? What is it? And how do I relate? Okay. You remember when we was in school, the question that you were taught to ask is who, what, when, where, and how.
Yes.
And we're not doing that. We get only part of the puzzle. So when I look at it, I say, okay, who is it? What is it? How does it apply to us? You know, well, if here's here's the problem with the back of that card. It's like a guy one day said, "Well, I'm the holder in due course." I said, "Really?" According to the back of that card, that section you're talking about, it never says you're the holder in due course. It says you're the holder.
Right.
How can you be the holder in due course if you're only the holder? You're holding another's property. And as
So
the
I think,
agent and as the general agent, okay, I can actually agree that it's your card. But that doesn't mean ownership because under trust law, the trustees are the legal owner. But as the general agent, it can be your card to do all that business.
yeah, because I was bringing to him the fact that I feel like he's being misleading by telling people that they're the grantor, and
Yep. And
what people have to understand is that we're not the grantor of that trust. And
correct.
every time he kept bringing up his little diagram, he wanted to show the trust, but I kept saying, well, that's a separate trust. That is a trust that you are creating. We're not the trustees or the grantors of the trust that already exists. There is a trust that already exists. Why are we not learning how to utilize that trust that already exists? Every time I hear someone speaking, it's about creating another trust, which is fine, but at the same time, there's still that trust that in a state that already exists, and we need to operate from that.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. Now, I'm not against creating another trust because if what I've heard is correct, and I'm kind of leaning that it is, they're not, if you happen to get to the point where they make you sign non disclosures, you got to have another trust to move it over to.
Yes, so that's in the future, but everyone has this big thought, or I believe everyone in has this thought in mind that if they just go and create a trust and put their social security number, put the state ID number to the birth certificate inside of that trust, that it just automatically is theirs at that point. This is
Yeah,
what
it's
I'm
not.
gathering. Right.
See, under trust law, you can put anything into the trust that you have an equitable interest in. Do you have an equitable interest in that social? Yeah, it's in your possession. You're the holder, right? So, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have an equitable interest in the birth certificate? Yes.
Yes.
Because why? That's your vehicle for operating in commerce. The
Yes.
problem is you're not operating right by it.
Mhm.
So you come into the system, and the number one question I ask people when they tell me you're the grantor, well, that my mother gave me that name. Okay, do you have firsthand knowledge of that? Well, yeah, my mother told me. That's hearsay. Do you have any knowledge of yourself that it's yours? And they can never answer yes.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it was handed to us, when we became of age to be able to allegedly take care of ourselves or whatever. But no, we don't have firsthand knowledge.
So if you don't have firsthand knowledge, then your next question should be, okay, if I don't have firsthand knowledge, this is my name, then what is my relation to it? It's like example I recently give to people is Microsoft Incorporated. Is Microsoft its first name and Incorporated its last name? No. The name of
No,
the company is Microsoft Incorporated.
right.
The name of the entity is all one name. Look on your card. There is no first, middle, and last. It's the name of the entity. It's a trust. You just think it's first, middle, and last. And the government, the First Amendment is first for a reason. They will gladly let you believe whatever you want to believe. They won't tell you what to believe.
Well, that goes along with your freedom. I mean, you have the right to choose that. So if you're doing it improperly by choice, it's still your choice.
That is why slavery is voluntary.
That's also why I keep telling people quit being afraid to call up the officials, call them up and talk to them, write to them and talk to them, get the answers to your questions. If you're not out there communicating, they don't have any understanding or knowledge that you're questioning or what to give you an answer for.
Absolutely. Aren't they supposed to be your servants? Start treating them like servants. If you start treating them like servants and like people, you will be surprised what you will find out and what will happen down the road, because you will get to where you will talk to people and they have the answers and they will tell you sometimes, not all the time.
I agree. I mean, it took me going to every post office in my area until I found the rural post office to get answers on that one question.
Yeah. Everybody thinks these government officials are corrupt all the time. The individual might be corrupt, but the system as a whole is not. We got to change the way we think.
No, we also got to understand that the people working in these positions are still people. They may not have the knowledge that you're talking about, and you have to speak to somebody else.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, can I speak to your supervisor?
Well, that's the way that the supervisor is trained by the last supervisor, by the last one, and so on. It's the whole
Yeah.
cop theory.
But the one thing I've seen more than not, the higher up the totem pole you go, the more they actually know.
That is true.
And some of this stuff is taught in law school. Dad, I don't know if you know know of this lady, Shane. She worked at the Home Depot in High Point. She was a paralegal. She Dad was telling her the things I was telling him about the MCO, the birth certificate, everything. And she looked at him one day and said, I know all of that. How do you know it? Well, I learned that in my schooling. He said, wait a minute, they teach you this stuff in school? In law school? She said, not every law school. But it was the very last quarter where the professor at the school she was at taught her all of this stuff. And she said, this is the reason I don't like the system and why I'm so picky on who I am going to go work for. Because knowing the information she knows, she wants to go to the right law firm that's trying to help the people.
That's hard to find.
Hmm. And she was working at the contractor desk at Home Depot. I told Dad, I said, I'd really like to have a sit down with her and pick her brain, see what she knows.
Well, she's in your area. Go by Home Depot.
I wouldn't know who she was if I had to. Don't even know if she's still working there. Because sometimes my dad has a bad habit of meeting these really, really interesting people. And he doesn't care to stay in touch with them too often.
And maybe he's like my mom is. She's a talker, and that's where I get my talking from, is she just likes to talk to people, and, after that, it's done with, until we meet again.
Yeah, well, Dad, the other day, he met a guy that was retired from a three-letter agency that I'll leave unnamed. He won't use a cell phone because of what he knows. But he knew a lot about the system that him and Dad talked about. They never got into the birth certificate stuff. I said, last question I asked Dad before he got off the phone, I said, after talking to him, do you think he's a friendly asset? He said, yeah, I do. I said, well, maybe you should keep his number handy. And when I come home, maybe see about having a sit down with him and pick his brain. He said, we might have to do that. He met a guy one time that did the SPC process. Don't know how long ago he did it. His house was worth over $2.5 million. But Dad was telling him about the stuff we'd been learning, and the guy would finish Dad's sentences. He knew it all. He ended up telling Dad the tax story. He said, yeah, they sent me a letter, said I owed blah, 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 blah. He said, all I did was get on my computer, write out a bond, and submitted that bond. And they sent me a letter that said, thank you for your payment. He said, wait a minute. You didn't do a bill of exchange or a money order or anything like that? He said, no. I just wrote out a bond and sent it to them. Said, here you go. And they said, thank you for your payment. So you never know who you're going to meet going down the road talking to somebody that they don't talk to you, you don't talk to them. You never know who you're going to meet that might know something.
Now, on the bond, that means it would be coming out of his estate at death unless he's claimed the estate, right?
I don't know that he's actually claimed the estate. I think he got the secured party creditor process established, and he'd learn how to manage the trust and do everything accordingly, and he handles his own business that way. Because the majority of the people out there, they never get the estate. And if you really look at the secured party creditor process, none of them really ever get the estate. Because why? There's not a lot of people out there that's telling you, go to probate court. If you never go to probate, are you ever going to get the account?
Well, you're not if you don't go to probate. But I was just thinking along the bond, why that that's usually a promise to pay it at a later date, so it would come out in the estate after his death.
Possibly, yeah. That is absolutely a possibility. And
The
I actually
federal
went on.
regulations. Sorry, go ahead.
I actually went on Westlaw and I found a really nice one-page template for a payment bond.
Yeah, I've got that, and I've got a template for the bill of exchange for payment. Those all come out. From what I've researched, is the promissory notes and all that can be turned in just like anything else to the Federal Reserve, and they can get it immediately or upon the death of the estate.
That's right. That's why the banks take your promissory note, and before the ink's even dry, they're already going on their computer, filling out the information for the promissory note. I don't even think they send them in anymore. I think what they do is they just do everything electronically.
Yeah, there's
And
an IFR system. I can give you the link for it, where any company and organization can sign up, and you're just scanning in those promissory notes or signatures, and then it goes straight to the accounts.
shoot, could that makes me think you could link your own bank account to it.
Yeah, I found the site and I was looking through it, and I haven't signed up for it because it says an individual can sign up for it as well. But I want to do more research on the back end of it because I can back into most sites.
You send me that website
Okay.
because I'll go on Westlaw and I'll see what's there that talks about it.
All right, I will.
You know, they used to call it the Treasury Tax and Loan. They changed it because people figured that one out.
I just happened to find that out when I was doing the research. I went to the Federal Reserve site and looking at all their dates for what they've got upcoming and what they're changing over to and when they expect it to change over. And it was mentioned in one small little sentence at the bottom of a page, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go check this out.
Shoot. If that sounds like I think it sounds, then you have no reason to go to a bank and file a loan. You just got to know how to submit the right documents, as in the right language, the right format, to where they take that note and they give you credits.
That's how I was reading it. I only really glanced at it and just gathered what it was about, and I haven't gone into it yet.
That's definitely one of those websites that's ripe for abuse. That's why if you have the wrong people doing it,
Oh yeah, I agree.
because I tell you what, I will definitely take my trust since it's already recorded with FinCEN, and I will definitely look into signing up for on that website.
Well, that was my thought process when I was looking at it. I was like, well, that would be, if you're not doing it with credit cards or anymore, this is where you would sign up and use it through.
Now you got my mind thinking. That's a little jewel there. I'm looking forward to digging into that.
That and the C1 account with Treasury, I think they could be connected and used together.
Possibly. Well, you know that the Treasury has a form for direct deposit.
Do, but then you would still, if you don't have it set up the right way, then you're still using it through cards or because that's the first thing the private side bank asked me. She said, with this account, you're not going to get a debit card or a credit card or anything, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. I know it's done through the back end credit system. So
what do you use to pay for things?
I didn't hear you.
So what do you use to pay for things?
They just do it electronically.
So how do you go into
Digitally.
a gas station and buy gas?
Yeah, I ain't got that far yet. I just got that finalized last Thursday, and then I've got an appointment the first week of October with the broker up at Fidelity in Atlanta to connect those accounts with it.
I know there's not very many private banks.
Well, there are. You just have to be invited into them. All the banks, even credit unions, have them, but they're not just giving them out there to the public.
Office. Yeah, the back office. Okay, I get it.
I'm just a talker. I know how to talk my way into a lot of things and then realize what I've got afterwards.
Well, I had a conversation with my bank because with doing the secured party process, you put that $100 million bond in Puerto Rico, right? So I had a conversation with the investment side of my bank, and I just, I just played nice, and I've got my bond, I've got a copy of my bond here, but I've lost the CUSIP number. And the guy says, well, I don't know how I can help you, but I can probably send you to somebody that can. And I'm recording this phone call, right? And so he forwards me to this other guy. First thing out of that guy's mouth, how did you get my number? And I didn't realize at that very moment, he sent me to the back office. And I really
That's kind of what had happened with me.
I really think that the guy that I was talking to could see everything. I gave him my social, and one of the last things he told me was, he said, look, me and him got talking about crypto, XRP, my thoughts on it. I'm playing nice, being like a normal person. And at the end of the conversation, he said, look, you sound like a great guy. He said, all I'll tell you is this. Take that bond to the bank, to your bank, and ask them to deposit it. And I said, well, that's interesting because it does say right here, demand deposit. Now, have I ever done that? No. But because when I got that information, I knew at that point in time, I knew there's things I'm missing. So it was a lot of that things that I've said and done in the past seem to be now coming forward.
The only thing that's held me up for doing anything is I'm trying to, like we were talking about at the beginning of this, is making sure I get my birth record on the record so that it can't still be held. I think that's the only thing left. for it to clear it out.
Well, have you went to your tax assessor? And you're going to probably have to get to the person in charge. And take the vital record certificate of live birth and have him do the assessment on the value of the property?
I have not. I remember you telling me about that. Truthfully, I've just been being stuck doing research online and going through things, and I just haven't gone down there. I was going to do all that together at the same time when I removed my land deed and my car title. That way it was all one trip done together.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I bring that up is everybody's making presumptions on the value of the bond. Well, if you want to find the value, have them assess the value. Now, if you
I
go
agree.
down there, if you take it down there and ask the person in charge to do that, you got to keep in the back of your mind whether or not he may know this or may not. If he doesn't and he says, we don't do stuff like that for those, then you're going to have to sit down, find out, do some research, find out who the head legal advisor is for vital records, and write them a letter and say, hey.
Well, see, I've already been told, though, to take it directly to a broker. They're the ones that are going to be able to open it.
What, open the account or open up the value?
Open up the value and the securities. Because the bank manager that I'm dealing with on the private trust that I've got, and I told Jesse, I think he's told everybody in Floyd's group about the 3 weeks where they're doing the whole changeover and everything. They've already taken the official bank seals away from a lot of them. Even the private members are not going to have access.
Yeah, you're talking about the medallion stamps, yeah.
Yeah, and even the signature guarantees and the official seals of the banks themselves, they've been revoked.
So are they going to issue new ones or?
No, they are not. They said the whole banking system is changing over within the next 3 weeks. They're in the middle of the process of all that. And the guarantees and the bank seals are only going to be used for banking purposes at the bank for their official records, nothing to do with the private side or the public members, that it will all have to go through brokers.
So you'll have to go find you a broker and work that route.
Right, and that's what I've got set up for the first week of October. I've already got that set up.
Is there any specific broker I should find? Because sometimes when you go to these brokers, they act like you're stupid and you don't know what you're talking about.
She set me up the appointment with them. It was through a Fidelity. It's their private brokers.
Ah. Because I went into Fidelity one time, had a conversation with one of the guys, a young guy in the office. He said he had his Series 6 license, but he talked like he didn't know none of this stuff.
I've heard that you need a 7 Series broker.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, a 7 or higher.
I don't know what their level numbers are or anything. I just know the bank manager's the one that set it up for me, and they called me. I had just a regular guy call me and said, well, you're going to get a call the next day from the private broker, and gave me her name and contact information in case I didn't get a call, but she called me directly on time, so.
Oh, the Borg. Gotta love the Borg. Resistance is futile. Huh. So it looks like, so when you open up your private account, was that through Fidelity?
It was through, I found a local bank that had treasury management accounts for Treasury Direct.
Yeah.
So that's the one I went to locally.
Did they
And
actually set up your Treasury account for you, or did you set it up?
no, I set it up with them. The first lady I spoke to there didn't know nothing about it, so I asked to speak to the bank manager. And she took me into her office, and I told her what I wanted to do and how I wanted it set up, and gave her my banking resolution.
Establishing your own bank?
Right.
Now that I've never seen. I'd like to see that. As I've heard people
What?
getting into private banking, but you're the first person I've ever seen that did a banking resolution.
Well, that's the only way you're going to do it unless you're invited in. I don't wait for invites. I'm one of those people. Like I told you, if I get something in mind, I'm going to push forward until I find a way.
Yeah, but it's not like you can easily find banking resolutions floating around on the internet from
No, I
different
create my
banks to
own
study.
documents. I don't
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know that.
duplicate anybody's.
Well, I'm not saying duplicate. For example, if you're going to do a peace treaty, shouldn't you read other peace treaties to get an idea of what you're doing? Especially when you don't know
Well,
anything about
yeah,
it.
but I kind of had an upper hand on that because of my grandmother's trust. So she had all of that already in place, and I just updated it to new terminology.
Yeah.
Because I went with her to open her own bank. I didn't know it was the private bank when I went with her, but she did that when I was 16. So I already had a leg up on that.
It definitely makes a difference. See, your family already had this stuff figured out.
That's what I've been saying. We weren't in the system until I put myself in the system. Everybody else, none of this was. They didn't do any of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
My
just like
grandmother.
I've always heard the elite, when their children are born, they record their children with 7 different agencies, and they don't go through the county and vital records. That's pretty much why they don't ever get messed with.
I don't think my grandmother registered anybody anywhere that I know of except for the Bible. But she always just paid things with promissory notes or what I call signature acceptance.
So she never used FRNs.
No, she never used any of. I mean, that way I always thought my grandma was crazy, but the way she always said it is all of that is for the companies and government, honey. You don't mess with that. You take stuff out of your trust. And it wasn't until like in my 30s I realized what the hell she was saying.
Well, you definitely got my mind spinning. I am definitely pondering all my knowledge on this. I was like, huh. Because that
I'm
right
just
there
trying to
is,
back myself back out because I'm the one that did all this. I mean, before then, nothing was on. I mean, we didn't do any of this.
yeah. Well, I mean, look, your grandmother, she did things through promissory notes or signature notes, right?
Yeah.
What I'm curious about, did she even work a job?
No, she never worked. She did volunteer at a food bank center.
So she never received any compensation from anyone then.
No.
She just learned how this system worked and she just used it accordingly.
Yeah, that's all she ever did. She never had a job like everybody else has. She volunteered a lot.
So when she needed something, she went to the bank and did a signature note is what you called it, right?
The signatory acceptance and the promissory notes.
Signatory acceptance and a promissory note, and then
Signatory acceptance was like for all her utility bills and stuff like that, and at the bank she'd always write out a promissory note.
So what did she do? Like the coupon on the bottom of the bill, she would just basically sign it and deposit it?
Well, kind of. It's a 3-thing process. You'd have the statement and then the voucher and then her signatory acceptance, which was the accounting number and the back of your social number, but it's formatted a little different.
Is that also
Yeah.
known as a banker's acceptance?
I don't know that terminology. I always called it signatory acceptance and promissory notes.
Well, I know.
That's actually how I did my own up until, because I had my own place when I was 17. And then right after that's when they started advertising about Social Security and all that crap. And that's after that's when I signed up for it, because I thought it was now a new thing that you had to do. Because I wasn't doing anything but doing the same thing my grandma did till then.
That's fascinating.
Well, it goes to further prove you start with the foundation, and as you work up and you start learning how the system works, you start getting all these perks. That's part of learning how to handle your own commercial affairs. Because when you start learning how to handle your commercial affairs, you're no longer a drain on the system.
Well, I'll find out more about her estate once I get me and my immediate family taken care of with all of this and get back right. I plan on probating her estate to find out if there's anything left on ledger and off ledger, because it was never probated.
The off ledger side is where the money's at.
Yeah, I
The
know.
on ledger is the little bit they give you every month. Are you going to go to probate court and get appointed executor?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do the letters of administration and then do the probate and settlement. Neither her nor my grandfather, they ever went through any of that, because like I said, everybody always just stayed out of the government. The government was the government shit, and we stayed in our realm.
Yeah. So I'm taking it to do what she did. You had to have a private bank account.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she dealt with only one person at the bank, and that's who she always went in with.
What I'm getting at is, hey, you've got special deposit, you got general deposit, you got a public account, you got a private account. Okay. I'm wondering if what she was doing, would you have to have the private account to be able to do it, or if you just happen to know what you're doing, you can do it with a with like a public account. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, I just know you're talking about memory from, 40
Yeah, I
years
know.
ago.
I know. I know.
I
I
know
get
she
that.
had her banking resolution, and that's what she went into the bank with, and I went with her because I had to sign on it for her.
I'm gonna definitely have to go to Westlaw and look up some of this stuff. That's why I love talking to people. Y'all point me in directions. And then when I start learning it, I start teaching it. 90 more miles. And I am chasing the clock. Lynn, you have been awful quiet. I am, yeah, you definitely got me thinking. I'm going to have to definitely look into that, D. Hey, Lynn.
Hi there, Pastor. How you doing?
You had to speak up. I didn't hardly hear you.
I know. I can barely hear you tonight, too. I can hear other people, but I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Let's see. Let's turn you up.
I had to go out and get back.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Oh, good.
Take off the noise suppression.
And you know what, though, D, when you talked about the banking resolution, um, if you go read Proclamation 2039 and then put that in context with March 9th, 1933, the congressional record, Eon was the one who was showing me this, and I can kind of see where he gets it from. If you read Proclamation 2039, he says you are the bank.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the mind frame my grandmother had. She, you know, it, that's just, I mean, she kind of probably did it like the creditor.
Well, I mean, if you go, I think it's like the fourth paragraph from the bottom of Proclamation 2039. It has a section A, a section B, and a section C. But if you read section C, it says these all new accounts are to be, that I'm paraphrasing, they are to be set up to accept all with deposits and withdrawals or invested in United States obligations. In other words, they set these accounts up for us to do private banking. We're just not doing it.
We're not doing the negative balancing. I mean, we're just deducting everything. If you go in accounting, a negative is actually a credit, and none of us are doing that.
Shoot.
Anybody that's taken a finance class or an accounting class knows you've got to have both sides to equal amount.
That's a generally accepted accounting principles.
Yeah, and we're always doing the debit, not the negative for the balancing it out.
Now, here's a question for you. I wonder on this new banking system, will the gaps still apply?
I don't see why it wouldn't, even if everything changes over and let's say worst case scenario back down the, it took 40 years for them to take out the gold. If they take out the notes, then it's still just nothing more than what we've been doing. It's just all digital, which if you do your accounting right, even digitally, it's going to be done correctly. It's just, we've got to know the correct way to do it.
Well, I argue the fact that the digital's been there for a while.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
only 3% of the world's supply of money is cash. That means 97% of it is already book entry credits. That's the term they use in the Code of Federal Regulations. It's just book entry credits. So what's the difference? A book entry credit is still a digital credit. I mean, I realize now the average person thinks everything revolves around a Federal Reserve note, and they don't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you pay with cash, you're using Federal Reserve notes. If you use a debit card, you're using credits and debits. If you use a
Right.
money order, you're using a money order. If you're using a check, it's a check. It's just all acceptable forms of payment.
How do you know with the book entries the difference between the debit and the credit?
Well, I know if you're using the actual true banking system, the credits are negative and the
Yes.
debits are positive.
And that's the backside that we're failing at because we're not doing the debit correctly. We're doing a lot of credits, which is increasing the liability and everything, but we're not doing the other side like we're supposed to.
Yep.
That is something I remember with my grandmother. It would be negative. It would not be the positive or nothing there. You'd have to do a negative to counteract it.
See, yeah, it makes me wonder. I'm trying to be careful how I say because I don't want someone out there that don't know what the hell they're doing trying something they shouldn't.
Well, we
when
can
they're not
talk about
ready.
private if you want, Pastor. I mean, I
Yeah,
understand that.
I'm just wondering if you could actually take the right document and put a negative number on it, take it to the bank manager and say, can you deposit this?
You've got the correct accounting on there, yes.
And then they would take that certain document to the Treasury and they would receive their credits from the Treasury.
What it's going to do is it's going to balance it out, and then you're going to get the return. But you've got to know the correct accounting.
And it shouldn't be difficult. I don't think you need to read all of the generally accepted accounting principles to know it. I think you
No,
just got to know
that's
certain
basic
key
level. That's
parts.
basic level.
Yeah, you just got to know certain key parts. Makes me want to go into the banking and securities section on my Westlaw account and see what's there.
Well, see, that I've already got figured out. I mean, I know how to do that just because I know how my grandma did it. My problem I'm still stuck on is the fact that until you have the legal authority, because my grandmother had it because she never got into the system. But those of us that are in all of this now have to go back out of it to get that authority.
Well, see,
And
that's where I look at things slightly different because I don't see it as you, the man or woman, are in it. that entity isn't you. You see what I'm saying?
I agree, but that is the account that it's coming out of, and until you have the guardianship or the custody of that account, you don't have a legal right to do any of these processes that everybody is doing.
I don't know. I don't agree, and here's why. What's the duty of the agent?
To send it to the people that are supposed to do it. I'm talking about
That's
for us
right.
doing it ourselves. I'm talking
Well,
about for ourselves doing it.
yeah. But now let's say I'm hypothetically right, which I believe in my heart of hearts I am. That you go and you balance your books all year long. You report to the Treasury with say a 1099 miscellaneous or a 1099 NAC with all these companies you've got contracts with tied to the social. Okay? And you send that 1099 off, say for Verizon, you got a $100 a month phone bill. Well, they received double the payments because they kept the coupon and you sent them a payment. So that's $200 a month. So you would do a 1099 for $2,400, send it to the Treasury, right? You keep your 1099s, and then you have your tax preparer do your tax return. So all that credit should technically come back to you.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, but the contention is still there that are you going to get the credit back, or they can consider you still a minor that cannot get those credits, that they are going to hold on to them until you come back and say, hey, I'm alive. I am now showing you this.
Well, this is why I say what I say about the register, about learning the law of agency. If what I was told
Exactly.
was correct, the registered agent was just the first step in the process of learning how to handle your own affairs. It wasn't meant for you to use it the rest of your life. It was part of the process of learning the basics.
Right, I agree with that, and that's why I say I think that's the only step that's left is for me to get that recorded.
Yeah.
I've gone through all of my notes, all of my research and everything, and I keep coming back to that. That's the part I think that's missing.
What, the law of agency?
Yeah, getting it recorded.
Oh, getting your private birth record reported. Okay, yeah. Well, if you now being your parents are deceased, right?
No, my parents are living, and I've already gotten an updated certified record for that from both of them.
Okay,
I'm gonna record that with it.
now here's my opinion on that. You do your own template, right? Or
I'm
that
just gonna use that
Bible,
certificate from the Bible. I'm gonna use my
yeah.
certificate.
Now attach an affidavit to it. Okay.
Right,
And
from one from each parent. I've got one from each parent.
yeah, and that affidavit is attesting to the facts of the birth and everything that's on the document. And then at the end of the affidavit, that they are gifting you the estate. Okay? Because that's your
Right.
private estate. Now, once it's gifted to you, now you can go record your property.
Okay. But okay, why would they have to give something that was already granted to me though?
Which part do you think is granted to you?
Well, with the affidavits, when they correct the record, then that is them correcting it
No,
also from the informant.
You're thinking of the vital records documents. I'm not.
Thinking of the other record. Okay, gotcha.
I'm thinking of the private birth record. See, the man and woman never got recorded. What you're doing is recording the man or woman. That is your inheritance. That is your estate. Okay? They gift it. If they gift it to you, now go read Minnesota Rule 220. Okay. Now, does Minnesota Rule 220 apply outside of Minnesota? No. But look at it from that context, that one of the owners is on the record, and it says that you attach an affidavit to the record, and the you being the owner will be viewed as attaining the age of majority at the age of 18. See what I'm saying? So the
Right.
point of it is that the private birth record is gifted to the man or woman. The government has no jurisdiction over the man or woman except through the law of agency, because they created that trust. It's not you. So the parents do the private birth record. This is my offspring, my gift from God, because the Bible says God only creates man or mankind, right? So that means God makes the heirs, not man. So now you have your record with the affidavit, and this is your estate on the private side. See what I'm saying?
I do.
And it is superior to the public side. Now you're
And
producing
if it's
that in
handwritten,
probate
it's
court,
better.
huh?
That if
Do
it's
what, D?
handwritten, it's even superior. Handwritten.
Yeah, that can that I can see that, yes. Now, you would take that recorded record of the private record and go before the probate, because the infant and the baby are not the same thing. Now the man or woman has been declared, and the Supreme Court says what? You have the right to declare who you are at any time. The man or woman has now come forward, but you got to have your private record to prove it.
Okay, so I'll have to have them both do a new affidavit with the gifting clause in there.
Yeah, because then that will actually, then you have the rights to do what you will with your estate.
Okay,
That would
I see
be,
that.
yeah, that would be the same thing of them saying, I'm proud of you, you're grown, here you go. We're giving you this
Right.
estate. And that's where I go back to saying we were derelict in our duties, because why? We never recorded our birth records for our children. I'm as soon as I can, I'm going to be doing my daughter's. She's 12. I'm going to be doing hers based on all of that for me and my wife to
Right.
set hers up to take her out of the system.
So I should be able to do that for my daughter then, because she's soon to be 18, and I know in Georgia you've got 6 months till after your 18th birthday to claim it. So without having issues, I
Yeah,
should be able to go ahead and do that land record gifting for her.
yeah. And if they happen to ask you, well, why did it take you so long to record this record, right? Hey, I've been exercising my life, liberty, and my pursuit of happiness all this time. I didn't realize that it was a prerequisite,
Right.
because you can only record your property. That's why I say, look, the hospital gave their property, which was the birth record that created the trust. You just got to record your property, because on the bottom of the newborn identification, it says the mother received her baby and took the baby home. Guess who never got recorded? I will stress that over and over and over.
You'd have to do it in a way that you're recording the record of nativity, not the person, because they can't consider property as people.
What is property in law? It's not people, it's rights and interests. Who has a greater right and interest in you than your mother and father? See, property, people think of their phone, their house, the tangible item as property. It's not the tangible item. It's the rights and interest in the item. And what's the government doing? Taking your kids. Because you've never established your rights and interest over your child, over your baby.
Right. I understand now, because that falls along with what my grandmother had in her trust document for the rights and interest of every trust member.
Yeah. See, we
I then
are not.
just use that as a recording document too, because my grandmother in her original trust agreement recorded those rights and interest of every trust member, which is the family lineage of the Wiseman Chabot, even after death. I mean,
It could be part of your evidence that she retained rights and interest over the grandchildren, not the state. See, we have to stop thinking of the social and the birth certificate given to us by the state as us. It's not us. And D, you've heard me say this. If I write a trust and I name it D. Bradbury, is it you? No, it's a piece of paper.
yes,
I might make it.
that's why you can get the foreign EINs. Is they always ask, does that have an essence? No, this is a new entity.
Yeah, well, it's a trust owned and controlled by the state. And go back to what you said. You can't own people. So if you go before a probate judge and he tries to say, but that's you, really? Since when did the state own people? What's he going to say? He can't say anything because then he'd be admitting that slavery is still alive and well in this country, and he's not going to do that.
I agree.
Do what, Empress?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay, who was that? Was that ZD?
Negative.
Yeah, I don't know who it was then. Somebody spoke up. Or it was a figment of our imagination. And I will always go back to, if it's not you and you're separate, things start becoming very clear.
Oh, I agree. And in my certificate of nativity in the Bible, it's actually written just with my first and middle name and then of our family.
Well, I've actually have written my name like that, you know, first, middle of the family of, but I also added an additional thing. I've traced my family line back to King Duncan the First of Scotland. So I put behind the family name heir to King Duncan the First.
Well, we've got our family lineage kept in a separate book that has been handwritten since the 1524. It's handwritten from Lord, I hate to get it wrong. I think it's Petrelli Chabot.
Well, there's
He
your
was
heir. There's
he was
your
an admiral in the
inheritance.
French army or military.
Yeah. That means you would finish your family name with heir to Lord, however you pronounce that.
Yeah, my grandmother was very good at, well, my whole family from my grandmother back were very good at keeping handwritten documentation and letters and records of the family.
Yeah. My grandmother, shoot, she's freaking awesome when it comes to that. She's been to Scotland. My grandfather would not get on a plane. You know, he served in Vietnam, uh, and he just he said, nope, no more flying for him. He said he told Grandma, if you want to go, I'll pay for it. Take off. But she has traveled all over the country and the world tracing our family line. And I think that is definitely important that people need to do. That way they know where their inheritance comes from. I mean, technically, if you trace it back far enough, we all go back to Eve. I mean, the science has proven that with the mitochondrial DNA. But after the Tower of Babel and all these different nations were formed, um, that's where the kings and lords and emperors and everything else come. You'll find somewhere along the line, you might only have to go back to the 1000s. No, shouldn't go no back later than that. But trace your family line. Find where your inheritance comes from, because those.
Well, that's important with, especially when you get into the tribes, like on my grandfather's side, we've got it traced back. His father and mother, his mother was One Quarter Creek, and she's in the Doss rolls.
Yeah.
So that for them, I've got the Treaty of the Dancing. It's funny, the Treaty of the Dancing Rabbit for the Creek Indians.
Hmm.
I think it was Choctaw Americans is what they were when it
Yeah.
was signed.
Yep. And when you start finding out where your line comes from, that becomes part of your inheritance.
Yeah, I went down that. I mean, I could do the whole Indian and do that, but they want you to turn over, because I spoke with them about that, and they would accept me into it and give me their stuff, but you have to turn over claim for the birth certificate and the SSN card, because then what they do is they turn those funds in for the nation, and that just didn't sit right.
Yep, they start making the money off of it, and then they leave the Indian people poor. Because I
Exactly.
see,
And when I researched that, I was like, y'all are no better than what's happening to everybody out here, because y'all are taking in anybody that can prove lineage, and then you're just using it for y'all's business purposes instead of helping the people.
Now, let's see here. I'm going to grab the address here. Well, I think when you go to I think that they do respect those bloodlines. I mean, they believe in their own bloodlines. And if you figure out your bloodline, you start learning who you are, then they can't tell you no different no matter what they say. It's like I tell people when they go to court, for example, I know somebody that actually did this to a judge. They tried to call him a pro se. And he said, Your Honor, didn't your mother tell you not to call people names? And the guy freaking the judge took a step back. Now, I got to open that address up again. Let's see here. Opening maps. Get directions. 49 miles.
Almost.
49 miles to my destination.
Almost.
I got to go in there tonight because I'm supposed to be there at 8 in the morning, but if I stop tonight and wait till the morning, I won't be there at 8.
That sounds about right.
What? Well, that I won't be there at 8?
Yeah, just
Right now, with the rate I'm going to be out of time right. I'm either going to run out of time right before I get there or right as I get there. Cite your authority. How's it going, brother?
Good. I had to switch to my phone. Reception isn't too good, but I finally got a signal. I saw that you were on there and I was excited. Man, it's been a rough room today. I'll tell you right now, or last couple days.
Are you tearing people's beliefs apart?
Not just that, yeah, but I'm warning people about the incubus in the room. People that produce no fruit, they dangle, dry fruit in front of you as if it was wine. I don't know.
You are not kidding.
If people just read half of the things that they talked about, there would be no problems.
Well, it's like one of the things that I've been telling people, the big thing nowadays is correct your status, right?
Yeah.
I said, how can you correct something that you don't even know what it is?
Absolutely. And this is why I insist that a prayer should be utilized, because when you don't know something, you're praying it to happen. And if someone's going to help you execute something, you might as well be talking to them fairly kindly.
Yeah. Now, but here's something I just found the other day. And it's a legal encyclopedia, an international encyclopedia.
I haven't got to see that. That'd be awesome.
and it's and I'm assuming it's tied to all the treaties, but they talk
Sure.
about the birth certificate. And now, if you go look up status in Black's Law Dictionary,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with nationality. It has to do with your capacity or incapacity.
To
Now, what is that?
contract.
Yes, to handle
Yes.
your commercial affairs.
Yes. To contract. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. See, to put this together, you have to know the principle. This is why people are failing. Move that. This is why people are failing, because they're not principled. They're not taught the principle. If you just teach someone the principle and they got it, they can look at something and say, oh, okay, well, what's the principle in this? And they can figure it out.
Yeah, that's why. That's the reason why I tell people all the time, if you read these books I point people to, like go to archive.org, pick you
Yeah.
one of the books, it's free to download, on the law of
Jeez.
agency. Start
Yeah.
studying what that means, because that's your
Y-
foundation.
It is. And that's the only thing that United Nations really guarantees someone is the right of agency. And the way I comprehend it is the right to stand before their courts and plead. Now, when I say that, I immediately go and say, whoa, 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 because in all the law books and equity books that I have read, the principle of how it works is by your pleading you shall be heard. And if you're pleading in common law, then you are talking about common law things. And if you're pleading in equity, it's probably a prayer.
Now, and who should you pray to?
The Most High.
Yeah, not Lady Justice.
No, and never a judge. But you can make the judge a chancellor, make him a witness to your pleading in their court, and that is what will allow a simple thing like a prayer to work. I mean, if when you read Yik Wu, have you ever read Yik Wu?
No, never heard of it.
Okay, Yik Wu, he was this guy. He got locked up, Chinese immigrant, family, of course, works in laundry, in California. And he got locked up, and he wrote a writ of habeas corpus on toilet paper in
I
prison.
heard about that case. It was one of the most famous habeas
Yes,
corpuses because he wrote it
yes,
on
ever,
toilet paper.
ever. And I get goosebumps head to toe when I talk about it because Yik Wu did it. And by his pleading, he wrote, and it was equitable pleading on a piece of toilet paper in handwriting, UCC 114. Look it up. To know the direction of the pirate law, because even the pirates are going to tell you what they accept and what they don't accept, what is accepted by others and what isn't, what's
Now
hierarchy.
you said what UCC?
UCC 3-114. And along with UCC 1-308, UCC 1-103, UCC 3-114, those are all necessary. They're all necessary you have to comprehend them. They're the key to everything. They're the
Some
principle.
somebody typed those in the room. 3-114, and what else was the other one?
Yep, 1-308. And
Okay, I
why
know
that's so
308.
important is the reservation of rights. But UCC 1-103, because it gives you all of your remedies.
Now, I'm
And
glad you brought up 114 because that applies to the Social Security card, because you know the section that gets tore off, right?
no, tell me. What
You know that
oh
when
what
you get a new social, you got your card, and then you got the piece that's attached to the card, right?
oh okay, yeah.
Well, all over the piece that's attached, and me and Dee was talking about this earlier, some of the people out there, they scream that I'm the holder in due course because it says right here it is your card. I said, no, it actually says you're the holder, not the holder in due course. And yes, even if you're the agent, you're the general agent. The general agent has all the responsibilities to handle the business.
Yes.
So that doesn't prove ownership.
No.
So that would fall under 3-114 as
Correct.
contradictory terms of instrument.
Exactly. You got it, brother. And if you don't know this, you don't know what you're talking about. This is the principle to all fights right here. And that's why you handwrite equitable instruments.
Oh, I know. I'm wanting to get my probate files started to petition the probate court.
Yay.
My apology. Those codes I have 1-308 and 3-114. What was the last one?
1-103. And the
Okay.
reason why these are all your remedies, because once you reserve your rights, you have to deploy them. You have to put forth and name your law form. And if it's going to be common law, you get to name your law form as common law. If it's equity, it's equity. What else is on 103? 103. What is it? The merchant mariner. What do they call him? The law merchant. And that's what they also guarantee. So, but this is where you get
these
to
these are the definitions. No, you said 1-103. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
I was looking at the wrong 103.
1-103, and the reason why is because right here, this, and what's so beautiful about this is that all of these in 1-103, all remedies for relief are in all courts. You just have to plead. You have to express what it is that you've reserved.
Yeah.
You get to name your own law form, is what I'm saying. It's so important to comprehend 103.
And that right there proves. I told Mike Slosser, he's a top attorney in North Carolina. He's retired now. And he asked me one day, he says, how good do you think you are at contracts? I said, Mike, everything's a contract. I said, I didn't care if it was a civil case, criminal case, it don't matter. He said, I don't agree with that. And I said, Mike, I said, when you was a defense attorney and the judge asked you questions, did you ever once consider asking him to define the words, or did you just presume to know what he meant?
Totally.
And it was like, as soon as I said it that way, the light bulb went off, and he started telling his friends what I was telling him. He told me one day, he said, you've taught me things I've never thought of.
Well, because you just drop back to the principle, and that's why I started Cite Your Authority, because of all the rhetoric out there. And it's like Hamilton today, or whatever his name is, Real Deep Square. He cites his authority as a quote from an author about equity.
You still stuck on that?
Here's what's the beautiful nature of that, guys, is he cited his authority. Now guess what we get to do? We get to weigh it. Now, how lukewarm of an authority is some author's opinion about his work if it's not a legal opinion? I'd say it's
Yeah.
about as lukewarm as it could possibly be without being urine.
Look,
I
principles
was there
of law.
to listen to that, finishing it. I didn't get to hear the whole ending of how y'all's conversation ended, but I got most of it.
Look, principles of law are few and never changing. Methods are many and are fluid. Guess what your methods are called today? Some magical process taught by some teacher. They never teach you the principles behind it, if it's even a valid process.
Exactly. If it's, and what I call it is patentable. If it's valid, it's patentable. That means you figured out a way, your strategy, your style, and it's patentable.
You know what Brian Parker calls it?
Huh.
Guru guano.
That is just awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh Lord, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Now another thing, guys, in the UCC is what's the other one? 5-30. Ooh, what is my fives? Presentment. It's under the word presentment. 3-501. There we go. 3-501, 3-502, 503, 504, 505, and 514, and 509, I believe.
Now
All three.
here's a question for you, and this is a does it matter type question, because I look at things both ways. Since we're talking about court, talking about presentments, and you're looking at these, when you submit your brief or your presentment, should you do the 2-cent stamp and sign across it on the back lower right hand corner?
Well, again, I go back to praying an endorsement on the back of any instrument. Now, can that consideration be more than a stamp or more than a prayer? Sure, I don't see why. And in fact, if you've seen some of my paperwork when it comes to real property, its salt is always exchanged.
Mm-hmm.
So, with
Mark in
consideration.
Minnesota, he's got a freaking bag of rice with a dollar symbol. They won't even let him in the courtroom if he's got it.
Yep, because you can pay your debt with it.
He did. He paid a ticket with it.
I sure believe it, brother. Because a farmer wrote on the side of a cow a check and dropped it off at the bank. They refused it. The farmer just drove off, and they accepted it and cashed it. Man, that's an old. I'll have to find that one. That's a ridiculous story, and you just know it's true.
What about the peppercorn case?
Which one?
Where a guy used a single peppercorn to purchase a house.
Love it.
It's actually, I can go to my Westlaw account. I can pull that case.
It's consideration.
Yeah.
Now it's not more than $20.
Well, under
about buying a house with a mustard seed.
Under lawful consideration, there is no value attached. It just has to be lawful.
Imagine using a mustard seed.
Sure. Sign me up, brother.
Faith of a mustard seed.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are the remedies that the relief I want to be engaged in.
You're going to make me go research weird court cases now. I'm going to have to read all these.
Well, go to
a lot of them are hard to find because they're not reported. That's one.
Yeah.
you should see the amount of non-reported cases,
Now,
and especially when it's a pro se litigant. Oh,
yeah, a tool that I let people know about, you can go on Cite Your Authority Law and Equity and search for law libraries. And I've got so many links to so many different libraries you didn't know existed. And I usually, when I teach a class on law libraries, we actually physically write emails, we call, and everyone gets a pen pal. Everyone tries to get adopted by a law librarian. And you can start ordering cases from law libraries all over the country, and they'll just keep emailing them and doing your work for you if you're kind, if you're equitable.
you need to send me your website.
Yeah, it's all my Cite Your Authorities. The reason why I've split them up is because they've got data on every separate one that's kind of pertinent to the subject matter. Like Cite Your Authority Military or Cite Your Authority Ministries.
Yeah, I love how you have it all organized.
It's pretty friendly, wouldn't you think? I mean, you tell
Oh,
me.
yeah, definitely. I enjoy going through them.
Yeah, it's just good stuff. It's very little rhetoric, very little. Oh, I'm on my phone. I can't send it to you right now, but I'll be sure to get
No,
it
you're
to you
fine.
real
You're fine.
Yeah.
But I will send you that zip file. I downloaded the 29 documents from that legal encyclopedia on
Yeah,
just the
cool.
section for United States.
The zip file that you gave me the last time, the 5.4, I think it was, it would not open into a folder. So it was doing some weird things. So I didn't have enough time to mess with it, but I just want to let you know, double check your zip file, make sure that they're good. I'm excited, brother.
That document, yeah, that's the folder. That's the 29 documents. You
Yeah,
probably gonna have to transfer it to your computer and make sure it's to get it. It probably won't open on your phone.
Pastor, can you send it to me too?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm really excited because I'm ready for my all caps funeral. I'm preparing
Yeah.
my spiritual.
Yeah, I told him what I was looking into. It's the placenta, right? Well, go back through the old cultures. What did the old cultures do? That's
my husband's family. Up until his great grandmother, they would take the placenta and afterbirth home and have a burial for it.
Sure. And lotus births were like that too. You know, women were so much more connected to everything 50 years ago. I shouldn't say 50, 100 years ago.
Well, what they would do is they'd do the placenta and afterbirth burial, and then when the actual person died, they'd either be buried in the same marked grave, so they were all combined back together in unity, or they would dig up the placenta and everything that had been buried to bury them if they had to be buried at a cemetery.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's where I go in and saying, hey, I'm actually a minister. I'm ordained, okay? And I said, been looking at the rules, you know, when it comes to the presumption of death of the infant and how the 7-year rule applies. Well, the infant isn't you. The baby never got recorded. The placenta did. But what was not recorded? The death. I'm talking about the placenta. I know you were not recorded.
The death was recorded. You just cannot get access to it.
Yeah, well, here's the workaround. Under the 7-year rule, if you've done your due diligence and you can't find that person, then it's presumed dead, right?
Absolutely. And all you need sworn evidences.
Well, we got sworn evidence. You know the number one piece of evidence?
Talk to me.
The government's own mouth.
What instrument you thinking?
The Vital Records Act of 1952, where they
Sure.
seal everything for 105 years. How
Sure.
can you find them if you can't get the record?
Absolutely. And this is where you are afforded equity. When the law is against you like that, equity is afforded very quickly if you plead it. Guys, if you
Yep.
don't plead equity, if you're always talking common law, or even worse, if you're trying to get into chancellery, guys, by no means am I teaching you guys about equity to get into equity and chancellery. No, I'm teaching you how to use equity in the Holy Scriptures in everything you do. Because if you are trying to instruct people in the future about a trust, you're going to want to do a prayer. You're going to want to speak to these people with wellness, and you're going to want to pray to your Most High that these people do God's work and do what you ask and do what you want for the trust. This is when you get to, literally express yourself so that in the future, maybe a great grandkid is going to read what you did and figure it out and comprehend. And, because we've got this generational curse that we're fighting, and it may not be your child this time. It may be your child's child or your child's child's child. Because
Yep.
even when you have this knowledge, it's very difficult to execute it and to how do I say this? Stay in the population that comprehends who you are and what your value system is and why you're doing this. I yield.
See, my idea for my brief is it boils down to showing the evidence in their own words of what the social, what the birth certificate, who owns it, and the linchpin is what? That it's not you. One of the linchpins is the Northwest Ordinance, because why? It can't be you, because the state can't own people. That
Okay,
means,
so in briefs, briefs are a great place. If you look up any brief, there's citation after citation after citation of authority throughout the brief. So
yes.
we're going to have to map out our citations. And one of the best ways I like to do it is using Miro. Have you ever heard of a mind map, brother?
No.
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
like mind maps.
So a mind map is a whiteboard, and a mind map was invented in the 1970s. And here's an example: is it's a box with text in it,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah. I've actually got a book on that explains that on legal writing.
exactly. So I've got a subscription to Miro, and I can have up to 6 people on, or I think 3 people on working, and as many watching as one wants to log on to. And we can mind map this. And what's so cool about mind maps is we can save all the PDFs in one portfolio, with
Yep.
explanations in it. And it's just so incredible. It's such an incredible tool. And that's how I've taught a lot of students that have run off and done some really awesome big things out there, in banking and in law, is just because the use of a mind map and teaching people how to use a mind map and mind mapping your work. Because if you think that you have a system, you want to mind map it out, so you can have it charted and planned, because you never want to go out onto that field without having everything memorized.
What
It's just
site is it that you use for the mind map? Because I love mind maps. I used to handwrite them.
Miro, Miro, and I've got a subscription.
How much is it?
I think I pay about $400 a year.
Right, too ungodly expensive.
No, listen, I only use these tools because they're so valuable to me. And I'll tell you, the mind
Now,
maps that I've got are incredible.
well, let me tell you what I've got on my Westlaw account. Is once the brief is written, you submit the brief to Westlaw, as in you upload it to their AI system. Their
Okay.
AI system analyzes it.
And
Went through a dead zone.
yeah, you dropped off, brother.
Yep. Okay. Now,
So the AI
when
analyzes it.
you finish, yeah, it analyzes the brief and all your citations, and it will tell you where your weak arguments and strong arguments out and all that stuff.
That is just crazy turnkey. That's crazy. This is why attorneys they're not smart. They're just well equipped. They're rich.
That's why when
They're
they go up against somebody like me and you, somebody that actually
we lost them.
He'll come back on. He's going
Yeah.
through dead zones. I think he's almost where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really want to know is how to handle attorneys. And I actually had a friend ask me about that today. And
What?
And I know there's a thing like you could challenge them on, well, do you have a firsthand knowledge of this happening? But I don't exactly know how to do
Let
that.
them speak. What they testify to is hearsay.
Right. So how do you do stuff to neutralize them?
object.
Yeah, object. It's hearsay.
Well,
but that's only in court. But what about when they send you a letter and stuff?
That's
that's the fact.
That's just a communication.
Yeah, all that is an offer, and the first thing you need to do is decline their offer, and continue to reserve your rights without prejudice, and thank them. Yep, thank them for the offer, and it's refused.
I mean, I wish someone would kind of go through step by step, like how to handle when an attorney sends you a letter or when they start a lawsuit against you or, whatever, because I think that is what scares a lot of people. And that's what the Amish guy's dealing with right now, Amos Miller and some of the, even a friend of mine who, really doesn't deserve it. And, so he's using Bill Thornton and trying to do the common law route. But I think common law is limited, right?
Well, all common law is.
Huh?
I don't know if you know what common law is, but I'm going to tell you what I have researched extensively to be able to say these words. Common law is case law. It is also referred to as precedented case law. Okay. Now, if you really want to get to the nitty gritty of the word common in common law, there are 6 states, including Washington, D.C., that you can have sex with animals. Okay?
You mean under common law?
That's common law. Absolutely. And if you're caught, you would want to argue your common law that you have a right to molest your animals under the common law, the citable law. Now, that's only citable in 6 states or 5 states and Washington, D.C., but it's a prime example of what common law is. Common law has nothing to do with God, nothing to do with what ought to be done, nothing to do with common sense. Common law is not common sense. It's adjudicated opinions. That's all common law is.
I mean, didn't someone go over the origins of common law somewhere? Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's it's kind of like, what they used before what before
The
admiralty or before
common law came. It was the unwritten law of England. It was what was common to the people. That's the reason why the common law is fluid.
Yeah.
The common law is based on the culture.
Yeah. In the area.
That's why common law is fluid. Did you say fluid?
Yeah, fluid.
It's fluid.
Yeah. That's why, like I just described, 5 states that you can have, 6 states you can have sex with an animal. You can't tell me that's more fluid than fluid. That's fluid.
No, what I mean by fluid is it depends on the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the common law in the United States is not the common law in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. And so I was, I think that's how a lot of the, quote, sovereign people, maybe who don't understand fully everything, are trying things like, that's what a doctor here tried to use to, because, he's very versed and educated on 5G, and to stop 5G, she's trying to do notices and whatever through common law. And then sometimes it works, and I don't know if they just allow it to work because, to give us false hope or something. But I think it worked for my my traffic ticket to get it dismissed. And I was going to say, there's who's using it right now. So I think the what do you call it? The legal defense, farm to consumer legal defense fund is helping the Amish guy. And I think that she said that they're trying to use common law, to whatever, to help him fight off the government, but, or the regulators or whatever. And, but I don't know. I just feel like that doesn't sound like it's going to work.
I mean, if you want to use common law in a court case, don't have a jury.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because you do not want romantic thoughts in that process. A judge will stick to the law. Yeah.
You have look. The reason why you don't want a jury is people are ignorant.
They are.
They think this is how the system works when I can sit and prove to them it don't. So if you try to pull a common law in a court and you have a jury, you're probably going to lose.
You could probably get them all dismissed, though, just by asking them if they're U.S. citizens.
So
no,
that's the thing. Like,
get them dismissed.
Where is it that you can use that? Like saying you have to come up with a jury of my peers, which is almost impossible, right? Like if you declare yourself not citizen. In what instance can you use that?
There's one thing on declaring it and another thing of proving it. This is why This is why I don't like the affidavit people. Because they don't listen.
Exactly.
They think if I write a bunch of claims on paper, that's an affidavit. Where is your supporting evidence to support your claims?
Evidence says, plural.
Do you think that when you write an affidavit, you should just include everything that you write on there, all the support documents? You should include with your affidavit?
You say, I am not a U.S. citizen, see Exhibit A, and you have a separate book of your exhibits. Why do you think I've told y'all, Susan, I did the FOIA request, y'all wanted to fight, y'all wanted to say I don't understand, because y'all are listening to Roger Sales, and he's missing one key thing. And I've been saying it. There's nothing wrong with the affidavit process when it's done right. You've got to put your supporting evidence with your claims. If not, all you're doing is making mere allegations.
Yep. And here's how it works, guys, is as an exhibit in law, in common law, you can publish evidences, and they must be labeled, and it's usually letters, exhibit A, B, C, D, usually in the common law. That's their preference and style. And with any sworn affidavit, you will have attachments and exhibits. Now, exhibits are the evidences. Attachments are supporting instruments. More paperwork that supports, but a little bit different than, say, evidences, because supporting instruments could be case laws.
Yep.
You got me?
Yeah. I mean, when I did the FOIA request with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Office, and they said we have no records, I said, guess what that becomes? Evidence. And because it's from a government agency, it's a federal agency, it's self-authenticating. So when I say I am not a U.S. citizen and I am a national of blah, blah state, see Exhibit A, I got the letter from that FOIA request.
Hey, Pastor, I want to clear the air one more time about what nationals really lack the words to, and it's what the state is called. And the state, I want everybody to write this down. Everybody, the state is called the sovereign union state. It also has a synonym, a same name, and that's the union state at large. Now, if it's California, it would be said Union State at Large, California.
Or the Union State of California.
Correct. And those are the words and the reason why people don't have them, because they didn't read the case law. I read the case law, all of the case law in DOJ CRM 664, 665, 666, and all associated case law, and 18 United States Code 7 sub 3, 40 United States Code 255. All of those have to do with jurisdiction. And when you read it, they use that language to express the law. And they're called words that have force and effect in law. And the reason why these words are important is because they've already been chosen and decided and adjudicated on. And that's why those words are used and passed along for other states to have similar laws legislated. I yield.
Well, I mean, I know I don't have necessarily anything against certain people. I do against others, like Hannah Von Reitz and Davis Strait. I absolutely
Yeah.
do not. They're leading people astray.
Yep.
Other teachers, I think some of them mean well. Some of them don't. Some of them are in it for the money, and they only teach you their process and tell you, don't never look at anybody else. I had one of Roger's salespeople come in here and attack me the other day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He come in, said what he said, and left. Said I was disrespectful. I said, how am I disrespectful? How have I ever disrespected you? I said, I've never disrespected you. I even said, look, if I've done something, let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't need to, mind those people too much. Some people
but there's a lot of teachers that mean well.
Yes.
They really do. They believe what they believe, but they will not listen for people that's trying to help them fill in the blanks they don't even realize they're missing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I studied jurisdiction for almost 5 years straight before I felt like I could teach it backwards and forwards, and, knowing all the case law and why it was settled that way, and, and just jurisdiction. But doing that opened my eyes to 30 other subjects that I was interested in law, because everything stems from jurisdiction, and that's why I went and learned it, because it was a
So
principle.
do you think that guy's course that that guy who's jurisdictionary, I think .com or something?
Oh, absolutely. Support that
guy's
guy.
thing is worth it?
Yes.
I don't
I'm
know him.
I'm asking the other guy. What's his name?
I don't know him. But if Pastor says he's a good guy, I'm more inclined to believe it.
Let me tell you why.
I didn't agree with a few things he said. He was kind of like, saying, forget about, some of the things that we study or we talk about. It's like, forget about that, forget about this. And I didn't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't like when people say forget about it, because don't ever forget about it. Don't ever.
Right. I feel like he's all about law, and I don't feel that that's the true thing. Like, all about the legal system, He's all about, like, using the legal system to defeat the legal system, right?
Sure, report.
Yeah, you got to, though.
Yes,
the reason I like the guy is this. He's an attorney, okay? He practiced in the courts for 10 years. He got so fed up with the system that he started his own private school. And what does he teach? He teaches just like a law school. What is the number one thing that the law school teaches? Procedures.
Procedure. Yeah, procedural.
See, you can be good at the law all day long, but many a sin is covered up by procedures.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I feel, because some of the teachers say, make yourself above, like the legal system, the courts are color of law, right? So why do you want to mess with that? Like, why not just, immediately, put yourself above that jurisdiction or whatever, right? So, I mean, I feel, I'm not sure what's the, right thing yet.
They may be color of law, whatever. All of that is a load of horse crap. And here's why. If you're not going to study their law, how can you hold them accountable to it? Because they are accountable to it.
It's theirs. And hold them. That's why you need to know the law, to hold them accountable to it. Absolutely. And you can step into equity. And the cool part is you don't have to go to a chancellery court. You can be equitable all day long. All you got to do is think like a parent would, and think a parent to a child. And if you're covering the bases in your paperwork like a parent would to a child, it's equitable.
I mean, the government publishes everything to tell you how their system works. And the problem is the majority of the people out there have this weird mentality that that it don't apply to me, so I shouldn't know it. Really? It may not apply to you, but it applies to them.
Well, so I can see the value in knowing it to use it against them, to sort of like, get them on their own, platform or their own thing. But, I still, feel haven't made up my mind. Like, I don't want it to apply to me. I don't want their fake laws and their, ridiculous, getting more ridiculous by the day, to apply to me. So
it already applies to you.
To us or to our fiction?
It already applies to us, because here's the problem. That fiction, that straw man isn't you. Right. What have you heard me say over and over?
So that's the thing. Like, why not, have one process where we separate ourselves from fiction, and so, then we can say, hey, this doesn't apply to us.
Because it doesn't work that way. There is no such thing as a one process fits all.
You live equity.
I've already told people, I said, what have I been screaming the loudest about? I said, the first thing people need to study is the law of agency, because everything in the fiction
Absolutely.
world works
Absolutely. Yep.
on agency.
Yep.
You don't
And that's
even
what
know who you are in relation to that straw man, so you can't even go into court and articulate it.
exactly. And that's what the United Nations guarantees is agency. You have to learn it. And
Okay.
that's why I
Now,
say if your pleading is a prayer, then you will be treated really well, because if you're stumbling and fumbling, you want to fail forward. And the only way to fail forward in a process like that is by being humble. And the only process that I've seen be internationally accepted is a form of a prayer.
didn't Winston
Everybody
try
has
that
to.
though? Didn't Winston try some kind of like, forgiveness thing? And then, I don't know, he tried some kind of, I heard he tried some kind of religious thing in the court and it didn't work.
Well,
Do you
again,
remember
this
me?
is.
You remember me
Go ahead,
telling the
Pastor.
story about the Lord's Prayer?
Yeah.
Eric,
What
you
about?
want to tell him about the Lord's Prayer?
Oh,
About
you
that
mean that
So,
it's
guy you asked me
copywritten?
about?
You mean
This
that
is
it's
a
copywritten?
well,
what,
not that,
you guys are
not just
talking over
that.
each other. So you just say the Lord's Prayer in court, and then what? They let you go, or what? I don't understand.
The guy that we talked to, Eric asked me about it. He said, the Cite Your Authority asked me, did you hear about that? I said, yeah, I heard about it. Mark up Minnesota told the guy to do the Lord's Prayer, and the guy
And
did it.
and
Yep.
then,
They dismissed all his charges, but guess what happened? They held one back, the failure to appear. And when when they brought him in later for the failure to appear, the judge played daddy to him. Come on, son. You know you're guilty of this. Yeah, I am. Guess what happened?
Guilty.
They brought him all those other charges back because they were dismissed, not discharged. And guess what happened? He's still in jail to this day because he was double-minded.
Yep.
When did that happen? Remember?
Oh, it's not been that long ago. I would have to ask Mark for the
so
exact time.
how should he have responded? Should he have said that, I did show up to court, or should he have just said the Lord's
No.
Prayer again,
This is
or what?
When
this is how.
he asked Mark, what should I do? Mark said, look, do what you did before. You saw
Lord's
what
Prayer?
happened.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Guess what? The guy gives some, well, I'm kind of agnostic. I don't believe in God. So the guy was double-minded.
Oh, he
Okay.
fucked up then.
So that guy that has a jurisdictionary course, does he have evidence of success of people using his what he teaches, and and having great results for them in court?
Well, if he teaches law, I'm sure results are varied.
What do you mean?
Law is an art. If
Hey,
if he's teaching law, then there's no secret what he's teaching.
It's like a jujitsu.
Yeah.
Mother.
There's
So
certain rules
basically,
you
he
need to
wants
know.
us all to be his version of lawyers. It's like I feel like there's always another tangent thing I have to study and another tangent thing I have to study, and it's like, when does it end?
It doesn't.
That's the
Nope.
thing. I mean, I don't want to be constantly. I'm willing to study, right? And of course, I have already put in a lot of time, but I don't want this thing to consume my life, and it has been. I don't want it to consume my life and bring down the quality of my life. And I feel like there's so much ambiguous, or no accountability, no feedback of results, and everyone's just saying, oh, you just have to research and study and blah blah, and it's like, fuck that. I don't, unless I have some clear thing, and I know it's like the quality or the the sort of the right path to go on or the right thing to study. You know, I don't want to be studying a million things and then find out later, oh, that doesn't work. And that's kind of what I'm finding is happening. Like people saying like, okay, affidavits don't always work. And, or what's the thing? What's the other thing express trust. You know, I thought that was the answer, you know, for like, you know, whatever, protecting whatever you want to protect. And, but then I'm hearing that express trust, you know, don't always work. And it's like, so what works? You know, I mean, what is like,
you know why an express trust doesn't work? It's not that it can't. The people are
why doesn't
not
it work?
studying the principles to even learn how to manage the trust. See, people are what you're looking for is something
no, I'm
that
not.
is.
I'm not looking for something that's one and done. And if that you're about to say that, no, that's not true.
Okay,
But
then I
what
stand corrected.
what I'm trying to do though is not continuously go on this, you know, sort of like wheel, you know, hamster wheel path where it's like running in circles and never really getting anywhere, you know? And that's kind of how I feel like right now.
Then stop listening to gurus and start reading the government's own documents. They will tell you how to do everything.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're saying you interpret their documents correctly, and you you know, I guess whatever, respond correctly, then you will sort of be on the right path to getting things done, you know, things happening your way. I mean, or you know, or just, you know, stop being abused by government. I'm sorry?
We're just talking about learning right now. Executing is a whole nother issue. Right now, we're talking about how you can learn what is a better way so that you don't spin your wheels, or, you know, you're not barking up trees you don't have to. But there are certain subjects like agency where you just have to know. And once you know agency, it will give you new eyes. And your new eyes, you'll be able to see something completely in a different light that you weren't able to before. And so this is about
I've been like, you know, kind of going over and over on that video that you had with that lady who was explaining CPS and explaining, what is that, the true something. I forget. You know, that one of the more recent videos that, I guess, yeah, she's talking about, you know, how it starts before the birth certificate and whatever, right?
Yes, that's the contract. That's why the birth certificate is not the foundation. The birth certificate is the result of the contract.
Yeah, because you had an application. Hey, did you get to take a look at that vital statistics portfolio and equity portfolio?
Not completely yet.
Okay.
It's quite a few things in there.
Oh yeah. I was wondering if you just saw all the titles. I tracked everything I could through the congressional record on census and birth certificates. So, and it's not everything I have because it's fairly old. But I'll redo it when I get time and add all the new stuff that I've got now. I yield.
Yeah. If you're not, go ahead. No,
so cite your authority. So you have experience with equity, then, in the courts?
Yeah, that's hard. Yes.
Okay.
Not just courts, but also in contract law.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of things that like I'm trying to help my parents as well as, you know, my own stuff, but they've gotten screwed so many different ways because they don't understand English, they, you know, and they're naive, so they've just gotten screwed with by so many, especially by the county of San Bernardino, and so I'm trying to I'm trying to learn things so I can help them, but So maybe, hopefully, if I learn enough about equity, you think that I can help them?
Well,
Which state
equity
is
always
that?
follows the law, and it perfects the law. So when you're really looking for a stopple, equity's a great place, because you're not looking for money, you're just looking to not be hurt.
Oh,
And
okay.
I approach equity from the Holy Scriptures and the court of equity or chancellery. I teach
Uh-huh.
equity um, in uh, in context to be able to use it at any time, in any process, any administrative process. You can use equity, and there are some just perfect language out there that that puts you into that equitable category when you start using language that's associated with equity. For you,
Mhm. And how did you learn equity? Like, what are the best sources, I guess, that you learn from?
well, I read a lot. So, and when I say a lot, I mean I read so much, and there's nothing that replaces that. But also, live debate and listen to gurus. They've taught me more about, uh, the romantic side of interpretation. Most of the people that call them gurus are completely romantically involved with a very narrow strip of intellectual capacity that they've got a hold of, and it's literally it's that way across the board with most people, because few people can separate their intellect from their romantic emotional side.
So you're saying you have to separate that.
Yeah, well, you have to be able to debate abortion without, crying.
Okay.
Just flat out. You've gotta be able to debate things, and you've got to be able to listen to someone and say, "Hey, dude, I've spent the last 3 years on that question. You might want to listen, because this life of yours is not long enough." And so what I learned from most people is they don't know what they're talking about, and that's why I really hunkered down and read. And you can read Levine's. It's a great read for equity in chancellery, but read the Holy Scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
And if have you looked at my prayer?
Your
So,
prayer?
yeah, the
No.
notice of repentance and prayer for equitable relief.
I don't even know you before now, so I don't know. Like, do you have a
Yeah.
website or something?
Yeah, well, I've got 12, 10 or 12 Telegram chat groups, and
Okay.
one of them is Cite Your Authority, Law and Equity,
Okay.
and I've got Cite Your Authority, Banking and Trusts for people who are into trusts. Cite Your Authority, Law and Equity. But yeah, if just add me in your contact and send me a note, and I'll send you some invites.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. How did you get into this, by the way? Like, how did you
My background is patent law and contract law,
oh, okay.
and
So then you're familiar with contract law then? I mean, the
oh,
legal way.
absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm an intellectual artist. I'm a patent holder, multiple patent holder.
Okay.
Yep. And then I was accused of a crime I didn't do.
I
Yeah.
see.
And then I was accused of a crime I didn't do, and then I was accused of another crime I didn't do. And so
So you had to learn how to get yourself out of that. How did you resolve those when you being accused of something you didn't do?
I hired an attorney to hire a team of attorneys.
Okay.
Say
Because
that
I
again.
didn't. I hired an attorney to hire a team of attorneys.
Sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
No, here's the problem. You're an idiot, and they can hear it in your voice. They can smell it. And so you need an advocate. So you hire an attorney to hire an attorney for you, so they don't give away how dumb you are. And usually when you get an attorney that hires an attorney, you get the best attorneys in the world.
What do you call the attorney that hires attorneys?
An attorney?
Yeah, but like
a broker.
what type of attorney?
I don't know. See, that's where I feel like, well, why do you need to hire an attorney, right? I mean, isn't that, it's just contradicting, what I've learned. Like, you don't want to hire an attorney
of 4 Patriot Act offenses. I was
By
accused of
who?
4 Patriot Act offenses.
Who? By who?
How about a lawyer?
By 3 peace officers. And I was taken into custody, and I was being accused of something I did not do, and they were assaulting me. And so I took custody of them once I rendered them unconscious. And my day got really serious after that.
Is your name Michael?
No, Eric.
So how do I find the attorney that hires attorneys? Because you're implying that attorney would sift through the attorneys and get the best.
What subject matter?
I don't have any cases now, but like, generally speaking, how do you find these attorneys whom hire attorneys?
Well, you have to be very savvy. You have to be learned in law.
Okay, well, none of this is going to help us, so...
Yeah, it's just an advanced question. You have to be very intelligent to do what I've done. Yeah, you have to be on top of your game.
And I can tell you now from privately talking to Eric, he reads the government's documents like I do.
Are you talking about Westlaw?
No, Westlaw is just a repository. It's a database.
It's just one database.
Yeah, you got LexisNexis, you've got Westlaw, but if all you want is statutes, codes, rules, and regulations and court cases, you can get all that free online. See, if you're not going to spend time reading their documents, you're going to have a hard time succeeding, because they are the ones that put the rules in place, and all their rules are based on principles. That's why I recommend reading the books written by attorneys, because the attorneys are teaching principles.
Yeah. But it's not every attorney. You're not talking about the average personal injury attorney or the employment compensation attorney.
No, I'm saying go to archive.org and do a search for the law of agency and find the books that are free to download and read the book on the law of agency. It's going to be all the principles revolving around agency. Once you start learning the principles, then when you go to the codes, it's going to give you a whole new light to see how they apply and who they apply to. And then when you get done with the law of agency, you want to learn about trust, go same website, look up a treatise on trust or the law of trust, and you're going to find books that attorneys have written on trust that's going to teach you all the principles on what the different offices are, how to manage the trust, what you can and can't do, blah, blah, blah. You can do a search, law of contracts, and then you'll find books that are written on the principles of contracts. So this is how you do things. If you're not reading their writings and you think it's something you should never do because it's colorable, you're never going to get anywhere.
Can
Well,
you
the
give
problem
us an
is,
example of someone who's implemented this and then,
I did it on a
the
ticket.
result?
I've told you that.
Yeah, but that's only one example. But I mean,
I did.
are
I
there
have been in 4 court cases. 3 of them were my own. I sit here and show you evidence, and Susan, no offense, you're one of the worst ones that fights with me.
I don't fight with you. Oh my God. Don't take my questions always as a challenge. They're not there to just challenge you, but this is like, this is common sense. Like everybody, who claims something or who claims to know that their thing works and, or is like, wants to teach other people this. Well, we want to know, hey, is this something that, that is practically going to work in real life? Is it going to produce? I mean, is it going to help you, achieve whatever you're trying to achieve, instead of just being another principle you have to learn, and who knows how it works in real life? You know what I
so
mean?
you're lost, kind of.
Well,
Huh?
principles.
Are you lost between all of these claims that unverifiable?
Mine's verifiable.
Mine are verifiable. I mean, on
No, I
Cite
was
Your Authority
asking
Law and
the
Equity,
understand.
the prayer is up there. You can see that it's been stamped by a court. You can see who used it. You can see that it's handwritten. And if you look it up, it was a multiple probation violation that the prayer worked for. Another gal got out of her phone contract using the prayer at Best Buy. What else was it used? Used for speeding. No driver's license. It was used in Oregon. Best Buy was in West Virginia. It's been used in California. It's been used in Michigan. It's been used in Hawaii.
Now,
and surely I did not invent it. It's a prayer, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know. Now, you talked about unverifiable things. Who was that said that?
Me.
Who is me?
Mr. House.
I'm just trying to see who it is, because I can tell you my stuff's verifiable.
Well, I mean, the other gurus can claim some outrageous stuff out of their asses, and it's bluff. The
difference is Fearless Floyd interviewed me and put me on his show because I showed him the ticket, and he listened to the phone recording because I recorded the phone call. He wouldn't have put me on there if I didn't verify what I said.
Yep.
And that was the most recent ticket. That's not the one that was probably 6 or 7 years ago, where I made the judge in court ask the question to the district attorney, do I even have jurisdiction to dismiss this ticket without payment of cost? But he did it. That's not even talking about the case where a buddy of mine had a careless and reckless case, and I stood toe-to-toe with the district attorney in West Virginia. He threatened to have me arrested for practicing law without a license, but I ended up backing him into a corner, and he dropped the careless and reckless and said, well, we'll change it to improper lane change if he will agree to pay it. And the guy spoke up, said, okay, I'll pay it. And I looked at him and said, are you sure? because I was there to assist him. That doesn't
Yeah,
count
that's
the
ridiculous.
GSA bonds. Yeah, that doesn't even count the GSA bonds I did in a family court case that I've shared with Fearless Floyd. So when I say verifiable, anything I've done, I can verify. But the whole argument on principles is this: principles of law are the foundations of everything. If you're not trying to learn the principles, you're going to get snowballed by every attorney throwing processes at you. A lot of these teachers out there says, do my process. Don't listen to nobody else. Do this. They don't teach you the principles of why it should work. Does it mean it's going to work 100% of the time? No. But if you know the principles, you'll be able to stand in front of that judge and articulate it and be ready for some of the stuff he might challenge you on.
Do you know how they train judges?
Oh, I do. You ever heard of the Federal Judicial Center?
No, because I feel like that's the best place to learn.
The
There are
Federal
judges.
Judicial Center is one of the places that judges have to go to.
Because if you learn where the horse learned, right, you can have an equal footing with it on the game that they're playing. So, Federal Judicial Center, is that a website or a physical location?
It's a website.
Federal Judicial. Do they have a physical location?
I don't know. I looked up their address. I just know they have a website, and I know that Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9, Part 1. You know where you going? No. Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9, Part 1 is one of the videos I send people to all the time. That's put out by the Federal Judicial Center, where they tell you the birth certificate is a registered organization. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're right here right now. This is where you go here and stay until like 7:30. And 7:30.
The horse's mouth. So FJC.gov.
Right here. Mm-hmm. Come up here. Everything is to the right. Turn right. You make the second right.
It's the Thurgood Marshall Federal Judiciary Building in D.C. So they do have one.
Go into, I put it up there too. 729 is your door.
Back into the door.
Mm-hmm, that's it. And I'm going to receiving every.
Okay.
Okay.
Woohoo, they're putting me right in the door. Hot dog. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
What's the matter?
I said, hot dog, they're putting me right in the door, even though I may not get unloaded till 8 o'clock in the morning. That's fine. That means I can get more sleep.
So you use equity to sort of help you get out of things, but you don't. You can't use it to help you go after someone who wronged you or something, right?
Let's see. I think he dropped off.
Yeah, he's not here anymore. You're talking about Eric?
Eric, yeah.
Yeah, he's not here anymore.
No, you can use equity to go after people that wronged you. But what he said earlier was equity doesn't cover monetary damages.
So maybe they will punish by torture or imprisonment?
By jail?
Equity is there to protect against a wrong.
Huh. You mean to help defend you against oppression or against, some kind of wrong, but not for you to be on the offense to collect something that, someone scammed you out of or something, right?
Um, that's where you get. I think I'd have to ask him on that because I need him to clarify that because I figured equity would cover the injury also, as in the injury or harm, which is where you get into the monetary damages.
I could text him or something, ask him about that.
Mm-hmm. The guy's smart. I give him that because me and him we speak the same language. And the guy, shoot, I can talk to him all day.
He seems like very what's the word? Thinks of himself highly. So
There are certain people that I can talk to and they're smart and I respect them. I respect their information.
well, let's see how good his Telegram channels are.
Now, I know you say you don't want it to be a lifetime thing of going and researching, but the thing is, it's kind of similar to studying the Bible. You know, you study the Bible because, people that believe it say, well, like me, that it changes your life. And so you want to read that book to learn more about it. And it becomes part of your lifestyle. Well, that's the whole thing with law also. It becomes part of your lifestyle.
I guess I'm not
Couldn't
past
have
the
said it
painful part
better,
then
Pastor.
because
Do what?
I don't.
Do what, Eric?
Oh, you couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what it is. I say that when you practice it daily, it comes off of your tongue easily. You're always prepared to speak because it's a lifestyle that, and that's everyone around you. You elevate and they elevate you to that lifestyle. It's beautiful. I yield.
And I say all the time, those ones that say, hey, give me a template to fix my problem or help me figure out this one problem so they can go back to doing what they were doing before are really never going to ever be fully successful.
Well, if we look at it from another angle, if we look at it as far as preaching the kingdom and preaching the gospel and keeping the simplicity to Christ there, then I just wanted to throw that in there. That's all.
Well, hello, Jack. I know I haven't talked to you in a while. You've been awful quiet.
Just listening.
Oh, so I was asking when you were gone, Eric, if equity is only to be used as a defense against, someone who's trying to do evil or oppress you or whatever, or can you use it on the offense? Let's say if someone scammed you to get retribution or whatever.
There's no retribution in equity. It's a stop. That's why I love equity because it has to do with being righteous. And, a righteous man wants only to be left alone, in most of those circumstances. So
like if someone, put out a bunch of lies and scammed you out of money, you're saying that in equity, you should just let that go and you can't get that money back?
Usually that's a business decision. And yes, usually the business decision would be to let that go. Yep.
Well, go read the Lord's Prayer.
Paralyzes you. Okay, do you let that go?
Go read the Lord's Prayer. What does it say? Forgive those that forgive those that trespass against you. Does it not say that?
But some trespasses are unforgivable. Like, what if somebody paralyzes you? Would you forgive
Right. What if someone does a hit and run and then you become you get in a wheelchair? I think in that case, I would rather go the real. I'm sorry?
I'd like to speak on this. I was 27 years old on a Friday afternoon when a 16-year-old drunk driver ran a stop sign in a pickup truck, and I was on a motorcycle. I woke up paralyzed, ward of the state, in a hospital. No one knew where I was. They've already been operating on me. I was unconscious. I could not stop them. And when it came to the court case for that young man, it was a fiasco. And I got up in court right in the middle of it. And the Holy Spirit touched me, and I stood up, and I told the young man that, and I told the court that I was withdrawing the case. I was not gonna pursue it. And I just asked one thing of that young man, that he does something intelligent with his life. And I want him to do something successful. And I dropped everything against him. Now, the court went crazy. Afterwards, my mother was not impressed with me. She said, "Son, you have children to feed." And I said, "Mom, you taught me when I was young, you can't get blood from a turnip." And that's exactly what it would have been. So 5 years later of me being well, dropped it. And of course, it cost me about $400,000 to be put back together. That doesn't mean to walk and talk and do things like I used to. No, that means a different life. And yes, I learned how to walk again. Yeah, I learned how to touch my toes, learned how to touch my nose, learned how to write, learned how to do it all. 5 years later, I was in a hibachi grill, and my mom called me and she wanted to have dinner. And I said, "Sure, let's do a hibachi, because it's just two of us. And, eating food with other people, breaking bread with other people is good for you." So we were standing in the waiting room, and this man comes up. He's a chef, and he says, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Yes, your name's Jonathan." He's like, "Yes, it is." He says, "Remember when you told me to go do something with my life?" And I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Well, I'm the head chef here. I went to school and learned how to cook, and I'd like to buy your family dinner."
That's
And I
cool.
said,
That's a good
"That
story.
would be wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you."
That's an idealistic example for some
That is a true story. That's what happened to
people.
me.
When you drop the case,
Well, not everybody has 400,000 to, put themselves back together, and that's where I feel that it is just to, get some kind of compensation so that you can help yourself while you're disabled. That's
Are we
why
talking
people
about
have.
compensation or forgiveness? Because the command is that if you don't forgive, your Father in heaven won't forgive you.
Correct.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, don't think I didn't want that money, because I had his $19 checks posted up, pinned up in my office. The kid flipped hamburgers. He was 17 years old when I sued him, or 18 years old, and he was sending me checks, court ordered. He was sending me checks, $19 for the rest of his life. It had been
Yeah.
19, 30, 50, $100 for the rest of his life. You just don't know reality. And so me receiving that check every month was a slap in the face, was a kick, was a reminder of something I didn't need reminded of. And it was cheaper for me to borrow the money, because I didn't have the money exactly. A lot of people came together and they loaned me a lot of money. I was loaned a lot of money. And I had a lot of money, but I was loaned a lot of money, and that's what put myself together. And I let him go, because
I don't know.
you
I
can't.
think that case, you did
It's
right.
not
I
yours.
mean,
Because right, I can probably do. It's not yours. It's not yours. Go
I
read
think in that case that it's, I
Deuteronomy
can see.
28. I you.
Okay, I can see that that side of it, and I can sympathize with that. But let's say you've got professional, white collar scammers, right? Who like time after time find different, especially immigrant groups, people who don't speak English well, and they prey on them. and they, constantly like rip people off, one group after another. And don't you think those people should have some kind of consequence, or else what keeps them from scamming more and more people?
There's a difference between forgiveness and allowing the wrong to continue.
Okay.
Okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean you act like the wrong never happened. And the one that said, well, that's something that's forgivable. Can you tell me a single sin that's not forgivable?
Yeah, when scammers keep scamming people over and over
Then
out of
you
their life stream.
then you need, if it's happening to you, then you need to analyze your decision that is causing you to fall into that same trap.
And you ever hear the saying, you can't cheat an honest man?
I mean, because the Bible tells me that I'm
No,
to
I
forgive
think you guys don't understand. You don't have the immigrant experience, so you don't understand how you go into another country and you have no clue how everything works, and you're at the mercy of whatever. You're so vulnerable, 100 times more than someone who is born and raised here. To like scammers preying on you
What
because you
happened?
don't even understand the language.
What kind of
I'm sorry. You guys only have your perspective of being born and raised here. You don't know what it's like to move to another country and not know the system, not know the language, and to try to survive. Maybe some of you do, but
You're funny.
So what kind of scams you're talking about? Like what?
like saying that they have some. The latest was they have an oil and gas investment, and it ended up being a Ponzi scheme. Like they didn't really put it towards what they said that they were going to, and
Well, right off the bat, whenever somebody tells you like there is an investment for something, the first thing you want to check is it registered with the SEC? If not,
everything
right off
was
the bat, it's a scam.
everything was quote legit, but it just ended up, so it got seized by the SEC, and right now everything's like
Did it happen to you personally?
No, not me, but relatives who don't speak English well.
Okay. So here's another story for you. Ready? I sued the federal government and won. And the reason why I sued the federal government is because I got caught in a Ponzi scheme. And they seized a bunch of assets. They seized account after account after account. And they went and they started seizing all the property. And some of the property is out of country. And so we ended up suing and winning. We actually won. We won, and it was a damn miracle. It was miracle upon miracle upon miracles. We won, but guess what I won? Guess what I won? We spent like $500,000 fighting them.
Well, because you did it through the legal courts. That's what I'm saying.
Won? Tax credits. We won in their courts, and we won tax credits.
And this is why I don't want to do things through their courts. I want to learn how to do things that where I'm not at the mercy of the color of law of their fake legal system.
So start reading.
Yeah, their legal system is
reading. Nope, it's perfected.
I mean, it allows a lot of like swindles. Nobody can deny that. But yeah, it's real.
It's not a fake system. It might be corrupt, absolutely.
You're
breaking up.
Every law they pass. Okay, maybe that's better.
You're breaking up.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, I said most every
Corruption
single
is
law.
a whole other thing. corruption is another thing.
Yeah, the individual.
Yeah, but everything they pass, almost
Yeah,
everything.
the individual might be corrupt, but the system is not. The laws they pass, for the most part, are constitutional. The problem is the people don't understand the Constitution.
Here's a test. Bring up the bill 6666. You know, the COVID bill,
Mm-hmm.
and look in authorities, and the authorities will, because the Congress passed a bill that says they have to cite their authority when they're proposing a new bill, and so the COVID 6666. Their authority is Article 1817 of the Constitution. Do you know what that means?
No.
That means COVID is only operable in the ceded federal territory. And what that means, that COVID is only legally operable in the 10 square miles or ceded property with ceded jurisdiction to that property with the explicit land use purpose. I yield.
Pastor, can you tell us where it says in Scripture that we should legitimize the courts and law?
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, maybe Jack knows that.
Yeah, maybe Jack can tell us.
Well, how about when a man's ways please the Father, then even his enemies are at peace with him?
Are you a Bible savvy, Jack?
I mean, you can either stay where you're at.
And they'll come get me?
No, I mean, you have to wake up and come in at 8.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Unloaded as fast as
No,
possible.
they just told me to go here and then go check in. I ain't never been here. I don't know. Yeah.
We can hear you, Pastor.
I know. Okay, that's fine. I'll sit here until 8. Okay. Now, you asked, where does it say in the Bible to legitimize government? Romans 13. It says God instituted government to punish the wicked. The people need to look at their face, look in the mirror and say, okay, who are the wicked? Most people think I'm not wicked. I'm a good person. I wouldn't do no hurt nobody, but there's different ways of being wicked. And what is the government in and of itself? It's a reflection of the people. The more evil and wicked the nation, the more evil and wicked the government will be.
Well, I think that it's because people, don't know what to do to reverse the evilness, but I don't think it's a reflection of the people. I think it's a reflection of the people that control the government, the cabal.
They wouldn't
It's
have
the consumers.
they
The
would
left hand of
beg
God.
for it.
they wouldn't have the control if the people had done their due diligence.
People asked for a king and they got one.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. But
They
look,
did. And they got the king's law, the law merchant, the pirate's law. They begged for it because they wanted to trade.
And all the king
They
will do,
wanted all the goods.
yeah, all the king will do is take.
see what the system has done over the past 3 generations it started teaching the masses that people are generally good, which goes against what Scripture says. The heart of man is exceedingly wicked. Who can know it? Now, I will admit the average person is decent. They wouldn't necessarily do anything to hurt their fellow man, per se. But have they stole? Who hasn't? A lot of people have stole a candy bar out of when they were a kid. Or, hey, I took $20 out of my mom's purse and tried to go to the store. Boy, I got my tail beat over
I
that one.
stole batteries for my brother's birthday.
Yeah. So we've done things that are considered sin, but now that we've gotten older, we look ourselves in the mirror and we pump our chest out and hold our head high and say, but I'm a good person. It's my neighbor that's the wicked one. Well, that right there is pride. What was the first sin? Pride.
I don't know. I think very, I mean, no, not what you're saying, but when you say, I hire the best lawyers because I'm really smart and, I hire, it's just like, I don't know. That sounds very prideful.
No, that's his opinion. That's not prideful. He said he hired the best lawyers. In his opinion, they were the best lawyers. That's not pride. That's opinion.
No, because he said, because he's very intelligent, which he may be, but I mean, it just sounds very prideful.
You know how smart I am? This is how smart I am. Is that I knew I would be too romantically involved. I would be too romantically involved. I couldn't. I was a witness to multiple crimes. That there was no way. And when you're smart enough to remove yourself from the equation, that's the smartness I'm talking about.
How can you take your emotions out of a case when you were the one that's been done wrong?
Not easy.
Damn near impossible.
It's easier. Impossible. It's easier for a man because we do have the ability to shut off our emotions. That doesn't mean it's always easy.
I mean, about the Amos Miller case, some people say, well, he screwed himself just hiring an attorney, right? So you're hiring someone to, attorney for you or something, whatever. So it just makes me confused, because, here I am hearing like you should not hire an attorney, you should always speak for yourself and blah, blah, because you're considered a minor who can't take care of yourself if you hire an attorney.
But who's the one telling you that?
I don't know. I thought you said it too. I've heard it from a few.
I actually do not say that because I say this. Here's the problem. I was talking to an intellectual property attorney just the other day. She told me herself, because I'm trademarking the name. She says, I know you're smart enough. You can handle this yourself because she follows me on TikTok. So she knows she knows.
By the way, I heard trademarking your name doesn't work. Like it doesn't really. And I heard copyright is better than trademark.
You cannot copyright your name. You can trademark it.
And what would that do?
Look at Will Smith. Will Smith's name is trademarked.
But does it really hold?
Did that too, right?
Does it really hold up though when you try to get them for using your name?
Yeah. If you evidence it, and you have to evidence it because it's always a trademark is linked with a corporation. So this is why it's always, when you see a mark, they'll always say is a registered trademark of Chrysler Corporation. You got me? So you always have to tie it together with a fiction. So That's what most people don't comprehend about trademark law.
That's why I
Is
tell
you have,
people, go buy the domain name.
Yep.
Go buy the domain name.
So,
Build your website.
so wait,
Put your
you
name in
tie it with your
commerce.
you tie it to your corporate fiction,
The subsidiary
Yes.
of the state of birth.
but I mean, what gives you the authority to trademark your corporate fiction?
Are you the one using it in commerce? What more authority do you need?
In fact, trademark, it says in use. So if you're in use, if you're using it, then you have authority, you have a claim.
Go read what the general agent does.
Keyword general.
Let's see here. Let me scroll up.
It's all military.
So as agent for okay, are we agents for our corporate fiction or
Yes,
agents
you're the
for?
agent.
Okay, so as agents for our corporate fiction, we can do a trademark.
You got to know what type of agent you are. Check it out. A general agent is authorized to do all acts connected with the business or employment in which he or she is engaged. Guess what? They gave you that property. They gave you the estate they control. And they said, here, go do business. But nobody does it right. So guess what happens? You get held liable because you're not doing it right. If you're the general agent, then yes, you have the right to trademark it. Because as the general agent, you also have a duty to protect it. You have an interest in protecting that estate.
And yes, everything is military, guys. Everything.
Everything. When they dismiss a case, dismissed from duty. You're discharged from office.
Military. Say another word. Bet you it's a
Yeah.
military word.
Yep. The Lieber Code.
There you go. Code. Lieber. Military.
Martial rule.
Martial rule. Military.
They fly the gold fringe flag in the courtrooms. Why? It's not because it's maritime law. That's people teaching stuff that don't know what they're talking about. It's because they are contracted with the military, and that flag flies under Army Regulation 840-10.
That goes back
It's
to
the Title IV of the United States Code for flags.
That flag can only fly in Army jurisdiction. They've never brought the sea onto the land like people say. You got to remember, Admiralty jurisdiction is a subset of the law of nations under the law of commerce. There's two sides to that pyramid: Admiralty law and maritime law. It's all commerce. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, the Commerce Clause.
What about the other three sides?
Okay, there's only two legs. Let's put it that way. Because you got three jurisdictions. You got equity, common law, and admiralty.
That's it.
Where does it say that?
Constitution.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. You haven't read, people don't read. They haven't read and studied the Constitution.
And if you get my PDF that's color coded, it's really cool because you can search in the advanced search of your PDF, and you can find everything you want to. It's all the first founding fathers instruments, the first 4. If you have something searchable, like a PDF that's searchable, guys, you can make your learning go faster. You can learn keywords, and you can search your instruments for your interests, and learn how to use the tools to search. Exactly. It's so important. I yield.